magnificent ladies and gentlemen. For today's teaching demo, we will going to talk about the Asian mythology and let's try to understand what is their common themes and the lesson we can get on it. I, Kay Little Peña with Miss Sucaldito, together we will going to tour you to the Asian mythology. Asian mythology features stories of revered deities, secret places, key events, and epics with many recurring themes and traditions. It includes the overviews of specific cultures and their mythic traditions. As we all know, Asia is rich in culture. So in this lesson, we will going to talk about the mythology of Japanese and Philippine mythology. The first one is the Japanese mythology. It is a collection of traditional stories, folk tales and belief, practices and historical accounts of the Japanese people that emerged in the island of Japanese archipelago. At this point, I will going to tell you a story and it's about Izanagi and Izanami.
Darkness, earthquakes, and storms, a world dominated by chaos. There was no separation between heaven and earth. They were both entangled in a deformed mass. This was the planet Earth in the beginning of time, a great dark sphere covered with waters and clouds, lifeless. After a long time, heaven and earth separated, making room for the emergence of light in our world. With that light, a small plant was born. It grew to become a conscious tree, becoming the first of the gods, Kuni Toko Tachi, eternal earthly support of majestic things. From that tree, two other gods emerged. This is how the Supreme Trinity emerged. The Supreme Gods continued to create other deities. Among them were Izanagi and Izanami, brother and sister. Izanagi was a handsome man with good composure. His sister Izanami was considered one of the most beautiful goddesses of divine creation. The Supreme Gods offered Izanagi the spear from heaven, known as Ameno no Hoko, a weapon decorated with precious and powerful jewels. Izanagi and Izanami were ordered to build their own home. The divine pair came down to earth using a celestial bridge. Intrigued by the shape of the world, Izanagi plunged the magic spear into the ocean waters. When it was removed, the dripping drops created the first island, called Onogoro Shima. In creating this island, two birds landed on it. Fascinated, the divine pair observed the affection between the creatures. The divine pair learned what love was, and, inspired by that feeling, they decided to continue the creation of the world. Izanagi and Izanami created a great pillar and danced around it to fortify their powers. During the dance, the divine pair looked at each other. At the end of the act, Izanami praised the beauty of his brother, and he returned the praise. Unable to resist their urges, they consummated their unrestrained passion. But that union did not bear good fruit. Their first child was a deformed monster, which they raised for a short time. Then, they let him survive on his own at sea. The second son of the couple was the island of Awa. Desolated with their descendants, Izanagi and Izanami talked to the supreme gods. They explained that the couple had reversed the order of things during the dance. It was Izanagi who should have taken the initiative. Izanagi and Izanami repeated the dance, and again tried to generate life, and the divine pair managed to create the sun, the moon, the trees, the mountains, and the rivers, giving rise to the world in which we live. But, much to their misfortune, Izanami gave birth to the god of fire, known as Kagutsuchi. By the time he was born, he was so hot that he ended up killing Izanami during childbirth. The goddess was sent to Yomi, the world of the dead. Izanagi, unable to live without his beloved, decided to go after her. On entering Yomi, Izanagi encountered a terrible darkness. After wandering around for a long time, he found his sister and lover. Izanami tried to hide from his brother. She tried to warn him that he could not look at her. Izanagi, consumed by the desire to see his beloved again, lit a small flame. Seeing Izanami's face, he went into shock. Izanami's beauty had turned into a decomposing corpse. Izanagi could not stand this vision and fled the world of the dead, closing the entrance with a huge rock. To get rid of the smell of death, Izanagi bathed in the sea waters. When removing his clothes, many mystical creatures, such as onis and yokais, left his body. Some believe that human beings also emerged in this way. Also during his ritualistic bath, Izanagi gave birth to the three most powerful yokais. Amaterasu was in charge of taking care of the sun and its course. Tsukuyomi was responsible for the moon, and Susanoo would protect the oceans, having the power to create storms. Izanagi and Izanami never met again. As the millennia progressed, they became more and more distant. The love between the two turned into bitterness and repentance. But, with that love, the world took shape and life. All creatures are eternally grateful to the gods of life.
Now, you know the Japanese creation myth. Try to reflect and let's proceed to another story.
Good day everyone, this is Bea Cassandra Sucaldito, and today I will be discussing about the Philippine mythology. Philippine mythology, the body of stories and epics originating from and part of the indigenous Philippine folks, religions, which include various ethnic faiths, distinct from one another. The prevalence of belief in the figures of Filipino mythology is strong in the provinces. Many common folk attribute psychological problems to these superstitions and considered significant for psychologists in understanding the Filipino psyche. Now, let me tell you a story about Tungkong Langit and Aluncina. Once upon a time, when the earth was but a shapeless, formless void appeared the god called Tungkong Langit, or the pillar of the heaven, and the virgin goddess of the eastern sky, Aluncina, or also known the unmarried one. The Visayan folklore states that Tungkong Langit fell in love with Aluncina. They married and made their home in the highest part of the heaven. There, the water was always warm and the breeze was forever cool. Not a bad weather was in sight, and the couple was happy in this place in the heavens order. Let me describe to you who is Tungkong Langit. He was a loving, hardworking god. He wanted to impose order over the confused world. He decided to arrange the world so that the heavenly bodies would move regularly. On the other hand, Aluncina was a lazy, jealous, selfish goddess. She sat at the window of their home at day doing nothing but brush her long, beautiful hair. Sometimes she would leave her home, sit down by a pool near the door, and comb her long, jet black hair all day long. One day, Tungkong Langit told his wife that he would be away for some time. Aluncina thought he was off to see a lover, so she summoned the breeze to spy on Tungkong Langit. Tungkong Langit caught the spying breeze and he became very angry with Aluncina. After he returned home, he told her that it was ungodly of her to be jealous, since there were no other gods in the world except the two of them. Aluncina resented this approach and they quarreled all day. In his anger, Tungkong Langit drove his wife away. And with that, Aluncina suddenly disappeared, without a word or a trace to where she went. Then, in desperation, he took his wife's jewel and scattered them into the sky. He hoped that when Aluncina should see them, she might be induced to return home. Aluncina's necklace became the stars.
Her comb became the moon, and her crown became the sun. However, despite Tungkong Langit's effort, Aluncina did not come back. Thank you for listening to each stories. Upon listening to each stories, we can conclude that a Japanese and Philippine mythology has the same theme. It talks about the creation of each archipelago. So I hope you learned something and reflect from those learnings. Before we end, we will leave you this quote. Every human society possesses a mythology which inherited, transmitted, and diversified by literature. Thank you.